Joe Ducard here, and if you want to be that person that is interesting and attracts people naturally towards you, then you're not going to want to miss this video. I'm going to give you 3 simple and easy to use strategies that you could take and use today to become naturally more interesting. So what are we talking about when we're talking about how to be more interesting? We are referring to having things about yourself that draws people to you. You know, being somebody who keeps people's attention, being somebody who is fun and people want to hear more about. But that's really what we're going for in this video. And with these 3 strategies, I'm going to teach you how to do exactly that. So let's jump right into them. Now, the first strategy to being more interesting is to cultivate your interests. Okay, so if you want to be somebody who is interesting, you have to do some interesting things, right? A lot of us, we just have our jobs, we come home, we watch some shows on TV, maybe on the weekends, if you're a guy, you know, you watch some sports or whatever, bullshit a little bit with your friends, play around on your phone. We don't really do too many things that are actually interesting. When you meet people and share stuff, you want to have things about your life that are intriguing, that are interesting. So what you definitely want to do is to cultivate your interests. A very simple way to do this is to ask yourself the question, what's something that I've always wanted to do? What's something that I've been really interested in? And you could think of something. You know, for me it was dance class, or for me it was photography. You know, it was kind of discovering other things that I always knew I wanted to try, and maybe I had put them off for a little while. But I made a choice to not put them aside and to actually engage in them and make them a part of my life. Another good question to ask yourself are, what are things that I used to do that I really enjoyed? Things I used to do that I loved? Things I used to do that I was really interested in. You know, for me, you know, I go back to when I was younger. I used to play sports, pick up basketball. I used to play guitar. I used to play poker. I used to go fishing. I used to do arts and crafts and different things like that. And a lot of those I still do in my life now, but it was very easy for me to look back and say, okay, what I really enjoy doing? What things did I do that kind of made me me? What things were interesting? And when I brought them up to people, people are like, wow, I didn't know that. So the first thing I want you to do is to make a list of things that you would like to try, things that you're interested in, or things that you used to be interested in that you want to take back up. And I want you to work them back into your life. Make it easy, make it simple. If it was one thing you used to do, then just do one step, right? If you used to do yoga or something like that, attend one class. Start to make it a little bit of a part of your life and start to build up those things that make you unique and make you you. Now, the second part of being more interesting only works if you did the first part, and that is sharing your interests. So those things that you're doing for you. You know, what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to just take something up in general just to impress somebody, right? I know there's a lot of stuff on social media and everything like that nowadays. People are taking up hobbies or stunting on Instagram and things like that just to impress other people. But I want you to do something that's really for you, something that you are interested in. Because if you're not interested in it, you're not going to want to share with other people. Or when you do, it's not going to come off right. So I want you to cultivate those interests, like I said, and make them part of your life so that when you meet new people, you can now share them with them. Now, one of the most important parts of sharing your interests, and a lot of people mess this up, is they don't talk about them in an interested way. Okay, so a very common question that either you'll ask somebody or they will ask you is, you know, what do you do? What do you do for fun, right? Or what are you interested in, right? Mostly, what do you do for fun? That's the question that you're going to get. And you could say, oh, you know, yeah, I play guitar, or you know, I took a dance class before, or you know, I watch some sports or whatever. And maybe you'll just kind of list some of these things. But if you want to get people interested in you, then you have to talk about those interests in an interesting way. And how do you do that? You act interested in them, okay? So a quick example I could give you, I was talking with a friend of mine recently about why I enjoy doing photography. And what I told him was that, you know, there may be a spot that you're taking a picture of, right? Whether it's a landscape or, you know, you're doing a photo shoot somewhere, something like that. And this could be a spot that you've driven by before. You may walk right by, take a peek at it, and not even look at it twice. But when you have the camera there and you have it set up, you could be at this spot for an hour, maybe longer. And what it does is it forces you to really soak everything in, to really appreciate the minuscule little details, and really to get a clear mindfulness and a clear picture of something, you know, something that you normally would have taken for granted or just passed by. You know, like if I'm taking a picture of myself with some wall art or something like that, somewhere really cool, I really soak that in and appreciate it. and get a lot out of it, right? So it goes to show that there's so many little things in life that we walk by and don't even take in and really process and appreciate. And that's why I love photography, because you take some time out to really take that stuff in and appreciate it. Now you tell me, was that story better than saying, yeah, I like photography, right? I was talking about that in a way that I was interested in, and I was sharing why it's important to me and why I'm interested in it and why I think it's cool. And when you do it like that, you're gonna get somebody else interested in the story and ultimately interested in you. You know, an old friend of mine used to say that if you say an interesting thing, they'll say that's interesting. But if you say a few interesting things in a row, then they'll say you're interesting, right? So the whole point is to share those things that you are interested in, share those things that you do. And here's the thing too, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. I don't need to talk about how I was hanging from the edge of a cliff in the safari or something like that and I was chased by lions, or you know, I was staying at this 5-star resort and I flew there on a private jet. It doesn't have to be any of that. It just has to be something that you're interested and you're passionate about it. And think about it, those things that you're into, why are you into them? Why are you passionate about them? If you could put that together in a message and share it with somebody else, they're going to be interested in hearing more about it, maybe interested in even doing it with you, and ultimately more interested in you. Now, the third and last tip on how to be more interesting is to go against the grain. You know, if you're looking to attract other people into your life, you're looking to make an impression on somebody, you want to be a little different than everybody else is, okay? When you first meet people, what do a lot of people do? They ask the same boring questions. Oh, what do you do? Where are you from? Okay, what do you think of the city? This and that. And very simple surface level things. But if you could ask an interesting question, if you could be a little more interested in that person, if you could share something cool about yourself, you know, if you could talk just a little bit different. You don't have to be a total weirdo all the way from left field, but if you go against the grain a little bit, against those social norms, you'll stick into somebody's mind definitely more than you would if you're just doing the same thing that everybody else is. A good example of that is using some sense of humor, right? So having a little joking with somebody, you know, making fun of yourself a little bit, teasing the other person a little bit. That's a little thing that I teach definitely to go against the grain to make yourself stand out a little bit. So when you're in doubt and you're thinking, okay, I'm not really coming off that interesting. Is this person really interested in me? Why don't you do something a little unconventional, a little different, and try to stand out a little bit from everybody else who's trying to talk to and meet all these other people. So those are my 3 tips you can take and use to become more interesting. And I hope you're interested in this video for sure. And if you have any things that, you know, another good question we'll add to, right? Another good question is think of people that are interesting, right? Think of somebody who's interesting to watch or somebody who's interesting to talk to. Somebody who you're like, wow, that person's interesting. You know, I want to hear more about that person. Think about who that is, maybe picture it in your head, write down some qualities that they had, write down some things that they did, write down some things that they shared with you and how they carried themselves. And it's a great way to model some of those characteristics so you can come off more interesting as well. And if you have any other ideas or any other things you want to add to the video, always comment below and share the wealth.